I will call this meeting of the Upshur County Commission to order. We will begin with a moment of silent meditation and prayer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning, everybody. Tony, we have minutes from last meeting.
Commission of Upshur County, West Virginia held a regular meeting at the Courthouse Annex on Thursday, June 18, 2015 at 9 a.m. J.C. Rafferty called the meeting to order. There were present J.C. Rafferty, Commissioner, Troy Brady, Commissioner, Terry Cutright, Commissioner, Terry Wallace, County Administrator, Tabitha Perry, Assistant County Administrator, and Jacqueline D. Glocker, Secretary. The meeting began with a moment of silent meditation and prayer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. All motions passed unanimously unless otherwise stated. After reading of the minutes on a motion by Troy Brady, seconded by Terry Cutright, the Commission approved the regular meeting minutes of June 11, 2015 with typographical corrections. J.C. Rafferty provided a review of correspondence from Cannon Wadsworth, Director of State Programs, Global Science and Technology Incorporated, regarding the renewal of the support contract basic ordering agreement for fiscal year 2016. Kerry Wallace advised that there has been no price increase from the previous year. After discussion on motion by Troy Brady, seconded by Terry Cutright, the Commission approved and authorized the President to sign the renewal contract. J.C. Rafferty provided a review of correspondence from Suddenlink Communications concerning the purchase and sale agreement with Altus S.A., in which Altus will acquire 70% of the equity interests of Sequel. After discussion on motion by Terry Cutright, seconded by Troy Brady, the Commission approved and authorized the President to sign the resolution of County of Upshur approving the change of control of the cable television franchise. After discussion on motion by Troy Brady, seconded by Terry Cutright, the Commission approved Donna Matthews to fill the vacancy on the Upshur County Civil Service Board. Ms. Matthews' term will expire on December 31st, 2017. After discussion on motion by Terry Cutright, seconded by Troy Brady, the Commission approved Aaron Harris to serve as 2nd District Representative on the Upshur County Fire Board. Mr. Harris's term will expire June 30th, 2018. After discussion on motion by Troy Brady, seconded by Terry Cutright, the Commission approved the resignations of Tanya Lake and Lillian Lake as monitors for the Tri-County Child Exchange and Visitation Program. J.C. Rafferty reviewed correspondence from Dirk Burnside, Deputy Director of the Office of Emergency Management. After discussion on motion by Terry Cutright, seconded by Troy Brady, the Commission approved Mr. Burnside's resignation and request to continue as Communications Officer, Races Radio Officer. J.C. Rafferty provided an update concerning correspondence from Doyle Tenney, IBEW, Local 596 Journeyman Electrician, which was discussed at the June 11, 2015 meeting of the Upshur County Commission. Mr. Rafferty advised that since there was no up or down vote, that the Commission's position on the matter should be clarified. After discussion on motion by Terry Cutright, seconded by Troy Brady, the Commission approved to not pay the prevailing wage to workers on construction projects costing $500,000 or less, as was approved by the state legislature. Commissioners stated that due to economic circumstances, they feel that they are responsible to county residents to pay no more than is necessary for work performed and will, as previously stated, consider each job on a case-by-case basis. After discussion on motion by Troy Brady, seconded by Terry Cutright, the Commission approved the adoption of the Freedom of Information Request Form. Debbie Thacker-Wilfong, Upshur County Clerk, appeared before the Commission and reviewed the proposed changes regarding consolidation and/or closure of certain precincts in the Upshur County. After discussion on motion by Terry Cutright, seconded by Troy Brady, the Commission approved an advertisement legal notices for publication of public hearing, closure of Precinct 13 and combined with Precinct 14, and consolidations of Precincts 18A and 18L, 20A and 20L, 27A and 27L, 37A and 37L, 39A and 39L, 44A and 44L, and 47A and 47L. The public hearings will be held at 9:15 a.m. on Thursday, July 23rd, 2015 in the Commission meeting chambers. After discussion on motion by Troy Brady, seconded by Terry Cutright, the Commission approved the updated procedures to dispatch record services. Terry Wallace advised that West Virginia Code requires that the procedures be updated every 3 years. Union Elementary School students Emily Joswick and Chloe Warner appeared before the Commission and presented a petition for the installation of a stoplight at the Kiesling Mill intersection on Route 33. Ms. Joswick and Ms. Warner started the petition when a recent traffic accident took the life of a grandfather of a Union Elementary student. J.C. Rafferty advised that although the Commission does not have the authority to place the traffic light, they will forward the request and petition with a letter of support to the West Virginia Department of Highways. Mr. Rafferty and Commissioners Brady and Cutright commended the students and appreciate their efforts for taking action to ensure the safety of others. J.C. Rafferty reviewed the following for your information items. Correspondence from Laura L. Ash, Deputy State Auditor, regarding a reminder of deadlines for submitting budget revisions. Budget revisions are due on or before June 22nd, 2015, final budget revision for current fiscal year. July 15th, 2015, coal severance fund budget revision. July 30th, 2015, general fund budget revision. Correspondence from David A. Llewellyn, Land Agent of Columbia Pipeline Group, LLC, regarding maintaining portions of the right-of-way by mowing and land clearing during the summer months on or near county property. Upshur County Tobacco Prevention Coalition, health risks of e-cigarettes, smokeless tobacco, and water pipes article. Agendas and or notices of meeting as listed, meeting minutes, none listed, meetings as listed, appointments needed or upcoming as listed. The Commission approved all invoices for payment. The Commission approved all vacation orders. The Commission approved the following settlements as listed. The Commission approved the following exonerations and or refunds as listed. Jim Ferry, former Office of Emergency Management Director, appeared before the Commission to discuss matters relating to retirement, contribution, and compensation. A motion by Terry Cutright, seconded by Troy Brady. The Commission entered executive session at 10 a.m. Present were J.C. Rafferty, Troy Brady, Terry Cutright, Terry Wallace, Tabitha Perry, and Jim Ferry. The Commission returned to open session at 10:25 a.m. No decisions were made in executive session. The Commission recessed at 11:30 a.m. The Commission attended the meetings of the Upshur County Department Supervisors and the Upshur County Policy Board. The Commission reconvened at 2:15 p.m. With no further business, on motion by Troy Brady, seconded by Terry Cutright, the Commission adjourned at 2:15 p.m.
Thank you, Tony. There is a correction I would note.
Okay.
It would be under the section at the bottom of the first page dealing with the request for prevailing wage.
Okay.
I would believe that the proper way would be to end the following the last sentence. Commissioners state that due to economic circumstances they feel they are responsible to county residents to pay no more than is necessary for work performed. There would be a period, and then we would strike the rest of that sentence because that was the reason that we had confusion to begin with. It was the verbiage that was remaining in the last part of that paragraph.
And I believe there was also a motion after we exited executive session with Jim Ferry to deny his request.
That is true. Yeah, we did have that. Yeah, so that should be on the record. Are there any other additions or corrections to be noted? If not, I would request that the minutes be approved. Is there a motion for that? With the exception of those changes.
I move to approve the minutes with the changes noted.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you again, Tony. We have a meeting at 9:30 on our agenda. We have an appointment at 9:30. But we'll have Dr. Susan Alloy, Leanne Brown, C.J. Rylands, Amanda Hayes making a presentation on what's next, Upshur County. They are a steering committee or members of a steering committee and make presentation of the findings. At 10 o'clock we have Terry Jo Bennett, Upshur County Building Permit Officer, to to discuss and request approval of memorandum of understanding and agreement between the Upshur County and the Cannon Volunteer Fire Department. At 10:30, we have scheduled Chief Deputy Mike Kelly for a presentation or discussion regarding request for retirement service credit. Prior to 9:30 then, we will deal with items for discussion, action, and approval. We begin with item number 1, approve county financial institutions as depositories as required by West Virginia Code Section 7-6-1. Those would be Freedom Bank, First Community Bank, J.P. Morgan Chase Bank, Premier Bank, Progressive Bank, and First Central Bank. On an annual basis, we have to certify that those banks will receive and are able to receive deposits from county funds if necessary. That's a common routine thing we do every year at this time, prior to the new fiscal year beginning on July 1st. Next, we have correspondence from Carol Jordan, Underwriting Manager of West Virginia County Risk Pool, enclosing the self-insurance renewal package, approval and signature of West Virginia Association of Counties Group Self-Insurance Risk Pool cover sheet to member agreement. I'd request that County Administrator Kerry Wallace give an overview of this issue.
This policy covers your property, general liability, automobile liability, public officials liability, law enforcement liability, crime, cyber risk, excess liability, and workers' compensation. The increase in comparison to last year is less than 1%.
Okay, the question is there necessary for the Commission to give the President authority to sign on that? Or
Yes.
So,
I have a question. On the letter, item number 1, it says excess business auto exclusion endorsement. The endorsement removes uninsured and underinsured motorists and auto medical payments from excess business auto liability coverage. Does that mean we don't have any underinsured?
For underinsured motorists coverage in the policy, it includes single limits of $1 million.
so we have underinsurance coverage up to $1 million.
And then you also have an optional limit of $250,000 in addition to the $1 million that's also included.
Why do they say they removed it?
When you, under the letter, also attached to this letter are the following items for your review.
Right here.
Right. And then right here, underinsured motorist. And that's here. And you have $1 million in single limits that's included in the policy. You have the option to forego the underinsurance coverage.
Okay, so
But you
we did not.
Correct, because
Okay.
you included $1 million. And then you also have an additional $250,000 that's included in their single limits.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Kerry.
You're welcome.
Therefore, do I have a motion to authorize the President of the Commission to sign and execute a signature on the self-insurance renewal package? Is there a motion?
We authorize that.
Is there a second?
I second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next, we have correspondence from David H. Kaufman, Sheriff, Upshur County, requesting termination of Sean Kundrat, Deputy, effective June 23, 2015. At previous executive sessions where this matter has been discussed, is there a need or belief by either commissioner to enter executive session on this matter at this time? If not, I would then call the question. Is there a motion to approve the recommendation of Sheriff Kaufman to terminate Deputy Sean Kundrat, effective June 23rd, 2015? Is there such a motion in support of that termination?
I move to support that.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, moving next. Number 4, we have correspondence from Rodney Rollinson, Corporal, Upshur County Sheriff's Office, requesting approval of the appointment of James Ferry to fill the Upshur County Enhanced Emergency Telephone Board vacancy for a 3-year term effective immediately. Commissioner Brady, I know that you're on that board and were present during the vote by the board. Is that the wishes of the board?
I'm sure that's the wishes of the board. However, I wasn't present on that board meeting. I was at Sellersville Youth Camp.
Okay. But you discussed this plan with the other board members?
Talked to, and Doug was for Mr. Perry.
Okay. In view of that then, is there a motion to approve the request from the Upshur County Enhanced Emergency Telephone Board to fill that vacancy for a 3-year term with Mr. James Ferry? Do I have a motion to that effect? Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Next we have correspondence from Sam Nolte, Upshur County Development Authority President, requesting the approval of the appointment of Kathy McMurray, Sam Nolte, Emil Butcher, Carl Martin, Rennie Hall, and Dana Wright to fill positions on the board that would be the Upshur County Development Authority Board, set to expire on June 30, 2015. Terms will begin July 1, 2015 and end June 30, 2018. Mr. Nolte also requests the approval of replacing Tom Shaw with Dave Thomas, and Dave Thomas is a city councilman from the city of Buchanan, for an unexpired 1-year term from July 1, 2015 to June 30, 2016. Do I have a motion to approve that request from Mr. Nolte of the Upshur County Development Authority?
I move that we approve that.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Next, we have no more items for action. We have information items. Number 1, correspondence from Russell Rollison, Senior Deputy State Auditor, County Collection Division, enclosing a list of properties that will be offered for sale on July 29, 2015. And again, there is a list that's provided. I presume that list is available through the sheriff or through that office. There's various properties, about 3 pages worth of properties that are going to be available for non payment of taxes, I guess. Next, we have correspondence from Tabitha R. Perry, Assistant County Administrator to Donna Matthews, regarding her interest in the Upshur County Civil Service Board vacancy. If you recall, last week we received Donna Matthews' request to serve on that board. However, upon review of state statutes, someone who is engaged in a political position or on a position involving a political party is not authorized to serve on that board. Ms. Matthews, as I personally know and many commissioners know and people in the public are aware, is I think the president of the Upshur County Democratic Party. So therefore, she would not be eligible for that position. Ms. Perry has sent a letter to Ms. Matthews reflecting that information, and also thanking her for her interest in serving, because we do need interested people to serve on these boards. So we appreciate her interest in serving and regret that she will not be able to serve, but nothing to any negative connotation for her reputation or position, just the fact that she serves as a chairperson, I believe, for the Democrat Party. Okay, next we have a brochure from the Upshur County Tobacco Prevention Coalition, Smoking Blamed for Half of Deaths from Major Cancers, People Over 35 article. We have correspondence from Robert C. Orndorff, Senior Policy Advisor, State and Local Affairs of Dominion, providing a safety update relative to installation of the pipeline. We have Energy Corporation of America, Important Safety Information Brochure. We have agendas and notices of meetings, and we have meeting minutes. It's listed. We have appointments needed or upcoming on the various boards, and notice that our next regular meeting of the Upshur County Commission will be July 2nd, 2015.
Casey, was there
I think I missed something here, did I not?
Was there a vote on item number 1 under items for discussion, action, and approval?
There was not.
Yeah. No, it was on number 1, and the discussion action approval was the bank financial. I think there's an item missing here.
You covered all the items, but you have got to ask for a motion on this one.
Did I not? Okay, I'm sorry. Apologize. Get ahead of myself. Is there a motion to approve the county financial institutions as depositories as required by West Virginia Code 7-6-1. Is there a motion to approve that?
I'll move to approve that.
All in favor say, or is there a second? All in favor say aye, motion carries.
Aye.
But there is something I think, unless I'm missing.
I check marked everything down through there,
Yeah, I did.
except you didn't mention approved invoices.
Right, I haven't got to that point yet, but I'm, or do we have, okay, I understand. I'm looking through now. That's an item that we have an appointment for. Well, we still are 10 minutes away from 9:30 when we have our first appointment. So I guess we can start paying some bills in a few minutes, and then at 9:30 we'll have the representatives from the What's Next Upshur County Steering Committee make a presentation. It is now 9:30. We have our first appointment, which is Dr. Susan Alloy, Leanne Brown, C.J. Rylands, and Amanda Hayes. What's Next Upshur County Steering Committee make a presentation relative to that program's findings. Who will be the spokesperson for the steering committee?
Well, we're doing tag team. I'll start off. Morning. Thanks for
If you'd like to.
having us. No, do you want me at the podium?
Well, this thing for purposes, of photogenic purposes for the Channel 3 community access television.
Great.
You are Susan Alloy.
Right. I'm
Doctor.
Susan Alloy. Yes, I'm Susan Alloy. I'm a member of the steering committee for What's Next Upshur County. It's part of a statewide program, What's Next West Virginia, sponsored by West Virginia Public Broadcasting, public radio specifically, West Virginia Center for Civic Life, which did the training for facilitators, and the West Virginia Community Hub, which was providing resources for communities and following up with some of the projects. So here in Upshur County, we sponsored the very first training for facilitators last August, and then we put our steering committee together and met through the fall semester. We deviated slightly from the state process. Most communities are doing a series of 3 community-wide meetings. The first one talking about where have we been, the second one talking about where do we want to go, and the third one talking about how do we get there, some specifics with project implementation. And when our steering committee met, we had maybe 12, 15 people in the steering committee. There was some concern that if we started with the where have we been, there'd be a lot of negativity, complaining about that didn't work before, and we tried that, or so-and-so derailed that. And then people wouldn't come back for the subsequent more positive, do something about it meetings. So we organized our meetings, and we did have meetings, around the central question: what would it take to make Upshur County the best place to live and work? So we had a more positive, what could we do to make things better? We also felt that people would be more willing to participate if there were smaller meetings in their local communities. So we organized these meetings around the elementary schools. We had a small community meeting at each elementary school. We had a meeting at Create Buchanan where we actually had to have 3 subgroups that accommodate the size that everyone could participate. And then we had 3, I think, on campus at West Virginia Wesleyan that were also open to people in the community. And then we had one culminating meeting on April 1st at the BU High School Commons, where we invited everyone to come back and share the ideas. We synthesized some common areas, and that's what we're going to share with you today, is some of the common areas from all of the meetings, and then the points that we want to make in going forward. So we categorize these into 4 areas to present: communication, collaboration, recreation, and consumer and visitor expectations. And so we'll share with you the findings and going forward points on those.
Hello everyone, thanks for having us. One of the things that we found when...
Hold it. You have to identify yourself.
Oh, sorry.
That's
Leanne Brown.
Agenda the public.
Leanne Brown. I work at West Virginia Wesleyan College, but part of my participation in What's Next is that I'm an interested citizen. One of the things that we found when we had our What's Next meetings was that not very many people were aware, one, that we had our meetings after what we thought was a pretty proficient public relations campaign, thanks to Amanda's role at Record Delta. And we live in the age of social media, and we thought that Facebook perhaps would have solved some of those, or filled some of those gaps, and what we found out was no. There was really no way that we we're going to reach the public. But in that, the people that came to the What's Next meetings were really terrifically interested in being part of this sort of discussion and movement toward what's next. How can we make Upshur County a better place to live and work? So one of the areas that we identified in our small group when we looked at and analyzed the comments was how is it that we move forward and be inclusive in communicating with the greater population of Upshur County. So we can't just rely on, sad to say, the Record Delta or or social media. We have to somehow reach out to groups that are moving forward in their own way and maybe make links with them. That could be civic organizations. It could be through the extension office or churches, but there is no connecting link, and we might point to, well, is that CVB's job? Well, is it CVB's job or is it all of our jobs? So how is it that in the county we can talk about connecting in new and innovative ways that don't rely on sort of the old systems, and our participation in What's Next, although it was a quality conversation, there just wasn't enough participants, which really, again, reflected what we felt was this elephant in the room, which is communication process within our county, and how can we move forward with that. One of the things that we did think about was perhaps there would be a role for a West Virginia Wesleyan intern to sort of look at what happens now, how can we move forward, do some research around that, what do other successful communication processes in other communities look like. Maybe we need to sort of reinvent our own wheel. So where do we start? What would the starting point be? Who are the key groups? What are the channels that have developed over time that people will tap into that we're not aware of? So one of our first areas then for action would be looking at how we communicate with each other. Thank you.
Those who are here today.
Absolutely.
Good morning. I'm C.J. Rylands, a local businessman. Collaboration is hard work. It's a learned skill. And there's a distinct difference between exercising power and authority and exercising leadership. You know, the sword, so to speak, an analogy, the sword of authority sheathed on your side has two edges. So when you pull it out, and I know when I was first given an opportunity, you know, to be put in charge of something, I felt like I had to exercise my authority, you know, power over these other people. But over time, I learned that when you do that, you know, it leaves scars and it leaves memories. And what you do, anytime you alienate stakeholders, it can come back to bite you. I'm sure we've all experienced someone, you know, lurking in the shadows, waiting to jump on any issue that we might, or mistake we might make, not because it's against the community's best interest, but because there's some personal issue behind it. So during our conversations, it came up, and the reason collaboration was put in this as one of the items was there's skepticism out there in the community about everyone working together. And you know, they're all willing to tell you what they're against or what they don't like, and that's easy. But we're trying to find a way forward, and how can we do that? So, you know, all government bodies or businesses or social groups, you know, there's a circle of responsibilities and there's a chain of command within that, and generally things run fairly well within that sphere. But success comes in these overlapping areas where we are overlapped with the city and the county, Chamber of Commerce and the CVB, this gray area where the chain of command doesn't really work, so we have to learn a new way to approach things. And that's where success lies. And to understand what we're trying to accomplish, you know, I use the analogy of a lifeboat a lot. You know, if we as a community are in a lifeboat and we're warring factions, or we have tribal issues or turf issues or personality issues, we're going to die at sea. Or we're going to be like a lot of other sad communities in our state or our country that aren't working together. It's not efficient, it's not effective. So collaboration is a learned skill. It doesn't come easy. It is not easy. But learning to step outside those boundaries of working with anyone, regardless of personal conflicts, for successful outcomes that are in the community's best interest, that's a no-brainer to me and a lot of people in our group. So I think we just need to start doing the things today that'll make ourselves successful 5 or 10 years from now. You know, we're held up across the state as a community that's working together and accomplishing great things. You know, some of us that are closer to the core of all this, sometimes you get lost and don't see that. But when it's from someone outside and they get a reflection of what's happening here and what's happening where they are, you know, we're being held up. So I just continue the good work and try to you know, work with anyone that wants to work towards successful outcomes.
What's your plan? From what I understand, you're going to try to make yourselves more visible. I guess that would be a term in the community, to try to engender interest from people that maybe were not aware of your earlier efforts, and to kind of broaden your appeal to have county participation in various segments of the society and whatnot, of the county.
Well, I think anyone. You know, it's open, you know, everyone's ideas are important and they all need to be talked about and evaluated. And, you know, that we in general, in your meetings or anyone's meetings, that everyone's ideas are important, that their voices need to be heard, try to stop alienating stakeholders and, you know, work together. But it's a learned skill and it's not easy. But
one of the things that we talked about is that as a steering committee, we're not creating a new organization. We don't want to keep meeting, you know, once a month or whatever. We're really trying to instill these kinds of processes and behaviors and ways of thinking across the community with existing organizations, giving people ideas of how they could work together, where they can plug in. We'll talk in a minute about some of the gaps in understanding and knowledge that are currently going on. One of the things that I think CJ was going to mention was the grant proposal writer for the shared position as one of the specific things you can help with.
you mind? One of the things that kept coming up, and an example would be, we create the candidate recently applied for Frontier Grant for $35,000, but we were denied. So but other communities, or we lost. But other communities, Ripley being one, that has a grant writer in city government, prevailed and was awarded $35,000. But the process of writing that grant, we learned a lot. You know, we had to put it on paper. And now we find out that we're getting awarded $5,000 just for applying. So even when you lose, you win. And we come up against this a lot, and recently, whether you've been told or not, we came up with a plan for a fishing wharf or handicap accessible on the McCann River.
On Riverwalk.
It's been talked for 8 years and nothing happened. But Buck Edwards exhibited leadership, said he'd chair the committee. Within a week, we had a plan and we had a commitment from a funder for $25,000. And those kind of things, you know, it becomes things that used to take us 6 months or a year are now happening in a week or so. So when someone exhibits leadership, the role of everyone else is to make them successful. It's not like in some cases where someone steps up and then the rest of them go, yeah, let's see him do this. You know? So it's a process, and that's something that could be considered between the county and the city or civic groups or whatever, some kind of co-responsibility for a grant writer that could theoretically bring funds in, because we're accomplishing those kind of things without just kind of muddling along, not even knowing what we're doing.
CJ,
Yes.
when your response to when you meet with people and they say that won't work or that didn't work, it's been my experience, if there's no mistakes made, nothing's getting done.
Yeah, well, I ought to be successful. But yeah, I agree with you. And And it's nothing ventured, nothing gained. So or a bad plan attacked is better than a good plan deliberated upon. So you learn a lot more by actually doing things and approaching things, and failure isn't that bad.
It's a lesson.
Well, Amanda, you have something to
Sorry,
present
Gene,
as well?
stand there, man.
That's okay.
You would identify yourself. I mean, we know who you are, but the public that's viewing might.
I'm Amanda Hayes. I'm not normally up here at the podium, but I've been a part of the steering committee, and it's been a very interesting experience, and we've talked about a lot of things that I think are important to the community. So when you ask yourself, what would it take to make Upshur County the best place to live and work, recreation is a big part of that. People want opportunities to do stuff with their kids and to relax. Here in Upshur County, they don't want to have to drive an hour or 2 hours. So throughout the community meetings, several topics kept coming up. And they're not new ideas. They've been discussed in other areas, other meetings, and other forums over the years. I think it's important because it shows that it's not a trend. It's something that's going to be sustainable that people will want to see now and in the future. One of those is more recreation along the Buchanan River. People want opportunities to rent paddle boats, tubing, canoes, kayaking. And we have a new company out on the Middle Fork River, but people would like to see stuff right here in town that they could do above the dam. The recreation complex. We recently had a presentation by the high school students on a recreation complex, and the community members that came to our forums, they really like this. They want to see something like that. They know there's issues with how to fund it, but they would be supportive of continuing to explore that. If you're a soccer family, you spend most weekends on the roads going to tournaments, and you spend money in hotels and restaurants in these other cities around the state. What if people came here and did the same? Imagine the revenue. Bike trails. People want to see more development of bike trails. And I know there's already some discussion of expanding the trails at the recreation complex at the high school. And that's something that people would like to see. And along with that, complete streets. If you Google complete streets, it's basically a policy of how to design safe routes of travel for everybody, for motorists, bicyclists, pedestrians, so that they can all work together, have safe right-of-ways, and there's a whole, basically a change of thought of how to make transportation routes better for everybody.
Thank you, Amanda. Is there any other questions or observations?
One more area that we needed to cover. The consumer and visitor expectations was another area that came up frequently. And what we found in some of the groups, participants would say, we need an X in town, or how come they don't sell Y, or how come there isn't this available? And in some cases, it was available and people just didn't know about it, or something was going on and they hadn't heard about it. So that's why communication was one of the areas we were concerned about. How do we centralize all this and make it available to people? But there also were other ideas around making the downtown even more vibrant than it is, more activities going on, different types of shops, hours, especially on the weekends and evenings when people who are working full-time or coming from out of town can actually shop. Sundays, CJ likes to tell the story about Sundays being one of his restaurant's busiest days, and that's all that's going on. That and the art gallery at the other end of the street is all that's going on, and people are looking in windows and looking at hour signs on the doors. Students particularly have different lifestyle. They're in classes all day, and then in the evening is when they can go out and do some things, and they're looking for places to gather, to study, looking for places to shop other than Sheetz and Walmart, because that's all that's open when they're able to go out. And those of us who work have the same issue. Unless you can get away, lunch hour to come downtown, it's very hard to be able to shop locally if you want to. So some collaboration on that. I know we've heard we tried being open, 1 month and there wasn't enough business, but it takes consistently doing it and some aggregated or collaborative efforts at that. If everybody does it and markets it. We talked a lot about some kind of joint marketing rather than viewing each other as competitors, looking at marketing the downtown altogether, the whole community, Upshur County altogether, and some things we might tap into in terms of interns and things like that. So those were the 4 areas that we really want to encourage some action on communication, collaboration, recreation, and consumer and visitor expectations for the community.
Well, I was talking with the mayor just yesterday, and he was advised me that we now have one event at least planned every month of the year.
One large one,
Which,
yes.
yeah, at least one, if not more. So that's a step in the right direction. This barbecue bash that was held last week apparently was very successful, and we look forward to that happening again next year. So those are type of events that I think lie within your perspective and what you're trying to accomplish.
And having people be aware of them, and not just local people, but people
Sure.
wanting to come through town, or when prospective students and their parents are alumni for homecoming.
Well, I know the Development Authority and the Convention Visitors Bureau have looked in the past and are pursuing, and with other counties having like a regional tourism, like whether it's Civil War or whether it's music, like over at Elkins, and then we have the Game Farm here. You know, those things can be collaborative between the various counties. You have the railroad, and we're within, I think, in a day's drive or so many miles of a third or half of the population of the United States. So one's quarter H, and that's a vital link to the population centers east of here. And once that gets completed, and that's why you know the quarter H authority and the Development Authority and chambers and everyone else are trying to promote that. It looks like the governor, from some published indications within the recent week or so, is supporting that private-public partnership to get quarter H completed early. These are all things, all efforts that will hopefully increase the opportunity for Upshur County to prosper from tourism and from the proper marketing and other things as well. So I applaud your efforts. I know the commission applauds the efforts of your organization and committee to promote that.
Well, and one of the things that came up repeatedly was that those will provide lots of great opportunities for us, but opportunity doesn't turn into actual things that happen without some planning.
Right.
Some planning needs to be done collaboratively. The priority said people need to know what's here, and what's here needs to be open and available when they're traveling through.
Well,
CG has some closing.
Just a little wrap up here. Just so planning is very important. Without a plan, you know, you don't, what Yogi Berra said, if you don't know where you're going, you might not get there. We had, over the years, there's a lot of good, comprehensive planning done in this community. But until the people at the table or the people in the room get up and go do something about it and take action, we're going to be back there renaming the plan, you know, something else down the road that's just going to keep cycling around until someone exhibits leadership, stands up, and they're supported by a broad group of citizens and officials that will make these things happen. So, I mean, a lot of times people come to our table and they've printed something off the internet and they said, you need to do this. And we say, politely say, you know, don't bring any solutions here that you're not a part of. And so everyone expects someone else to do it for them. And I'm sure you hear about that all the time, what you should be doing, right? But it's really ultimately up to us collectively to work together to accomplish these things. And you know, that's really what it comes down to. It's great to go out and build a consensus for the best interest of the community, but it's a whole other thing to try to initiate and facilitate those goals and objectives, and that's an element we're all working on. And I think we have a good chance of succeeding.
You'll be bringing your presentation to like city council or
Correct.
other fraternal organizations or civic organizations.
We've done Chamber of Commerce, city councils next week, I think, Rotary.
And the press, the media will be reporting on that, and hopefully that will arouse the interest of other members of our community too.
Yeah, someone new comes around all the time, and it's surprising sometimes. But they just feel like, and it's nothing against this forum in here, but I mean, it's a little intimidating for most people. I mean, you're kind of up there like judges, and there's a lot of rules, and there's cameras going, and so there's a forum where people that are new to the community can come in and actually get engaged and feel like they can help and do something, that's an important element.
Part of the problem, as I explained when I was attending a meeting there at Union School, by law, we are mandated to hold our meetings in the courthouse. And secondly, if two of us are present at any one meeting, there could be an insinuation or a inference that we are making decisions apart from public meetings. So we, by the nature of the statute that we operate under, statutory requirements and limitations, we are restricted in some of our what would seem to be common sense activities, such as meeting the public. I know a number of years ago, I believe there was proposals to meet at some of the fire departments on a monthly basis, maybe every other month, go out into the different part of the community to hold your county commission meetings. Cannot do that. So those are issues that could rely or would require a state legislature to change the rules. I mean, it's awkward even on a day like today to go out and have lunch with a fellow commissioner, because some people may consider that we're conspiring to do something behind the scenes. But yet I would point out that if you were so interested in defeating the purpose of the public hearing, we could do that at 2 o'clock in the morning. We could meet out under the Pringle tree. So that's one of the most frustrating things, and I bring that not just to your attention, but anytime I discuss limitations that we have with community organizations or individuals, I bring that up. And some of the strictures that we have as commissioners, I believe, are well-founded, but at the same time, there has to be a recognition that to do our jobs in a more effective manner, we do have to be able to communicate. And we do have to be able to go out and speak. And maybe it should be a forum where 2 commissioners or more can go out and enter a dialogue. But again, at the same time, we are restricted in what we do. Until that is remedied, I don't see a change in that. So as individuals, we can participate. We can go out and talk and explain and listen to the organizations. But in terms of being more engaged, maybe that's a term to use, it's difficult.
Well, there are conversations. I know I was at the House Board meeting, and Vivian, who I don't remember her last name, but I think
Parsons.
She's the head of the, and we brought this subject up, and she kind of took offense to it. And but we had an active conversation about, wouldn't it be a good thing to have more autonomy in our own counties or our own school districts, or I guess that's also a two-edged sword. That's, a state-centric form of kind of government, which I guess can kind of cause less drifting off the course, but kind of restrictions.
So I say we are a creature of the state legislature.
That's right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your...
And thank you for attending a couple of meetings.
I'm particularly interested in your shared grant proposal writer, because we write grants in our office, and we're certainly not professional grant writers, and that's not what we can put all of our time towards here. But there is, right, but there is Region 7 within the county, and I believe all entities are eligible to utilize Region 7 in their services. And our office is sometimes hesitant to use them on smaller grants, because they normally work with grants that are larger, over 100,000 or so. But I believe that is something that a lot of other entities in the county could utilize, and it would be a benefit to them.
Right, I think what we were thinking about is some of the more local opportunities we might miss out on locally, because nobody's looking out for them, reaching out for those and then collaborating. Because having some collaborative projects in mind to even look for funding for, I think for a large, more regional kind of thing.
We approached them when this Frontier grant came up, but it's just, they're just like us. We don't want to go there and say, hey, apply for this for us, and they go, hey, we'll give you some help, we'll give you some guidance, some words or something, but they're not going to do it for you. And we find ourselves, I'm trying to write a 300-word thing, you know, and it's like, you know, me doing dental work. I mean, I don't know what the heck I'm doing, and I think it's reflected, and you don't get the grant, so.
Well, we feel like we're missing out on some potential opportunities for funding just because nobody's watching for them or aware of the kinds of projects that could be funded.
And it makes sense because, I mean, we had years ago, the city manager of Fairmont came and spoke to us, and he said, you know, for $38,000, $40,000 salary in 1 year, they got $4.8 million. So, I mean, it's not, as a fiscal decision, it's not difficult to make, and it's a shared responsibility. I think, you know, spending $10 to get 40 or 50 over a 5-year period makes a lot of sense.
Does the college or the hospital have a grant writer?
The college does.
Okay. Well, maybe if 3 entities enter into an agreement or one grant writer to be shared, that might be something that would be more affordable.
Yeah, let's risk for all the parties involved and test it for a couple of years and see if it works. If it doesn't,
With some good planning so the poor person isn't pulled in multiple directions, some clear priorities to researching.
Is there any comments by other commissioners?
Thanks for coming in.
We appreciate it, and thank you, and good luck in your endeavors.
it's not something you do and it's done. That's
No good deed goes unpunished. It is now 10 o'clock, a little bit after 10 o'clock. We have Terry Jo Bennett, Upshur County Building Permit Officer, to discuss and request approval of a memorandum of understanding and agreement between Upshur County and the Buchanan Volunteer Fire Department. Terry Jo, do you wish to take the podium?
I can if you'd like. I'm more here on behalf of the addressing and mapping department versus the building permit. I guess that's the benefits of wearing more than one hat.
You are the permit officer, though.
True, that is true.
How many hats you wear?
Well, that's one of them, that is true. I've recently met with members of the volunteer fire department in regards to the memorandum of understanding with the county commission and the fire department for the addressing and mapping data. At this point, what they are requesting is the center line data, which is obviously the road lines, as well as the structure data. So it would be just like basically the GPS points. No other information, no information that would identify any residents or anything like that is what they're asking for. And this is the agreement that we've been talking about for some time with the volunteer fire department. And to my knowledge, everything is lined up. They have provided us with their proof of their insurance with us listed as an additional insured. So at this point, they've already signed it. It's just a matter of the commission acting upon it and the president signing it. And then I've already kind of started preliminary looking at getting the data to them. So hopefully by the end of this week or at the very latest, the beginning of next week, we can put this done on the shelf as a done project.
My understanding is we would have to enter into a similar agreement with all the other volunteer fire departments
Yes.
as well, for them to share the same information.
Yes, sir. They've approached the county commission about that in the past, and they have been advised the exact same way that the Buchanan Volunteer Fire Department of what we would need with the memorandum of understanding signed and then listing the county commission as an additional insured. And that's just to protect the liability of the county and the county residents as well as the fire department. And that's the purpose of it.
And I would expect, and I would hope, that once the first department signs an agreement with the county on this issue, that other fire departments would make a similar decision as well if they wish to have the equipment.
Right. It would just be a matter of having the equipment to be able to operate the information,
Right.
which the Buchanan Volunteer Fire Department already has in hand, ready to go. So, yes.
Very good. Well, I thank you, Terry,
You're
for
welcome.
your efforts on this.
You're very welcome.
Having any questions by other commissioners or any observations? If not, I would ask if there's a motion to approve the president of the commission to execute the memorandum of understanding between the Buchanan Volunteer Fire Department and the Upshur County Commission. Is there such a motion?
I move that we approve that memorandum and the president sign.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. We have another appointment in about 10:30, another 25 minutes or so, with Chief Deputy Mike Kelly. which may lead to executive session. But in the interim, we'll continue paying our bills and executing the contracts that we're authorized to sign. We will resume the county commission from recess. We have at 10:30 an appointment with Mike Kelly, the Chief Deputy Sheriff, relative to a matter regarding request for retirement service credit, which may lead to an executive session per West Virginia Code 6-9-8-9A-4. Is there a necessity for a executive session? If so, does anyone want to make a motion, or do we want to entertain going into executive session? If so, I would make a request for a motion for executive session. I think Ms. Wallace thinks that's something that relate to us that might have some bearing.
Well, I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.